In March 2025, Canada shocked the world by slapping $22 billion in retaliatory tariffs on American goods. This was the largest trade action Canada had ever taken against the US, a clear sign that polite diplomacy was over. The move was a direct response to new American economic pressures, with Prime Minister Mark Carney calling it a defense of Canadian sovereignty and industry. The tariffs targeted key US industries, aiming to inflict maximum political and economic pain. Ottawa's message: if the US weaponized its economic power, Canada would fight back to protect its workers and pride. The announcement sent shockwaves through Washington and Wall Street, threatening to unravel one of the world's most integrated trade relationships. Supply chains that crossed the border multiple times were suddenly at risk. The scale of Canada's retaliation showed a new resolve. Ottawa felt cornered and was ready to escalate. Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc declared the tariffs essential to protect Canadian jobs from unfair US measures. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation between two allies, now on a collision course. The era of quiet cooperation was over. A trade war was about to reshape North America's economic landscape. The spark? The Trump administration doubled tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminium to 50%, calling it a matter of national security. This was more than a tariff. It was an economic blockade, justified under emergency powers. President Trump's response was swift and furious, framing Canada's retaliation as an unprovoked attack. He threatened even harsher measures, targeting Canada's automotive and energy sectors. The dispute quickly became a personal battle of wills between Trump and Carney, with both leaders refusing to back down. For Canada, the 50% tariffs threatened a vital industry. Steel and aluminium are the backbone of manufacturing, and the US is their main market. Carney stood firm. Canada would not be bullied, and tariffs would stay until the US committed to fair trade. The escalation turned a technical trade dispute into a global political drama. American supporters cheered Trump's tough stance, while Canadians rallied behind their government's resolve. The lines were drawn, two neighbors, now locked in a bitter economic standoff. The world watched as the trade war intensified, threatening industries on both sides of the border. Canada's $22 billion retaliation list was a masterclass in strategic targeting. It hit not just steel and aluminium, but also everyday American goods, computers, sports equipment, cookware, and a wide range of agricultural products. US dairy, poultry, and produce were taxed, hitting farmers in key states. Iconic American brands and even cosmetics were targeted, spreading the pain across the US economy. The goal: create political pressure on Washington by hurting industries in swing states. On the US side, tariffs focused on Canadian steel, aluminium, softwood lumber, and even energy and minerals. The North American auto sector, reliant on cross-border supply chains, faced chaos as costs soared. Canadian lumber mills and American home builders both suffered, while US dairy farmers lost access to the Canadian market. No sector was safe. Rising costs, lost markets, and uncertainty became the new normal. The trade war turned industries into battlegrounds, with workers and businesses caught in the crossfire. Both economies faced mounting casualties as the conflict dragged on. While leaders traded barbs, ordinary people paid the price. In the US, tariffs raised consumer prices by 1.7%, costing the average household $2,300 a year. For lower-income families, the impact was even harsher. Tariffs acted as a hidden, regressive tax. Jobs suffered too. The US was projected to lose nearly 500,000 payroll jobs by year's end. Businesses faced higher costs and shrinking markets, leading to layoffs and stalled investments. In Canada, imports from the US fell by $3 billion in just 6 months, disrupting supply chains and raising costs for manufacturers. Sectors like automotive, electronics, and agriculture were hit hard. The trade war proved there were no winners, just widespread economic pain and uncertainty. Everyday life became more expensive and less secure for millions on both sides of the border. The trade war quickly became political theater. President Trump painted Canada as a freeloader, vowing to win at all costs and energizing his base with combative rhetoric. Prime Minister Carney, in contrast, projected calm resolve, defending Canadian interests without personal attacks. His stance united Canadians against what they saw as American bullying. The drama escalated. Ontario's premier threatened tariffs on electricity exports, while US lawmakers from affected states pushed back against Trump. The war of words deepened mistrust, making diplomatic solutions harder to find. Every statement became a strategic move, overshadowing the real economic stakes. The relationship between the two allies was defined by public feuding, not cooperation. For months, trust was replaced by tension, and the world's longest undefended border felt more like a front line. The trade war's impact reached beyond trade. It chilled travel and personal ties. Canadians, once the largest group of U.S. tourists, began staying home, feeling unwelcome amid political tension and border hassles. In June 2025, Canadian car travel to the U.S. dropped 33%, and air travel fell 22%. American border towns and tourist hotspots lost billions as Canadian visitors vanished. The decline wasn't just economic. It frayed the personal connections that had long bound the two countries. Reports of tougher border checks and a sense of suspicion discouraged casual trips. Many Canadians chose to spend their money at home, fueling Shop Canadian campaigns. The trade war affected not just economies, but everyday choices and cross-border friendships. The world's friendliest border became a symbol of discord. The fallout showed how political conflict can disrupt even the closest of neighbors. By September 2025, the pain was too great. Canada lifted most retaliatory tariffs, signaling a desire to de-escalate. Duties on U.S. consumer goods were dropped, but tariffs on American steel, aluminum, and autos remained. Canada's message: compromise was possible but not surrender. The U.S. kept its own tariffs in place, leaving the most contentious issues unresolved. Over 85% of trade was tariff-free again, but trust was badly damaged. The trade war taught both nations hard lessons. Retaliation is costly, and even the biggest economies aren't immune to blowback. U.S. jobs and growth suffered, while Canada endured short-term pain for long-term stability. The future remains uncertain, with key tariffs facing a Supreme Court challenge in 2026. For now, the uneasy peace holds. But the scars of 2025 will take years to heal. The world's most successful economic partnership must rebuild, one step at a time.